Namaste, hope you're doing well. What I have in my hand? Yes, this is paracetamol. It is available as Calpol, Dolo, Crocin and so on. But situation was not the same always. Ask your parents or grandparents when they were young how many different substitutes they used to have for the same medicine. The answer will be most likely either none or very few. What made this possible? How we have different substitute for the same medicine easily available now. We will understand this and more in my today's video. First, let's pick the threads from my previous video first, which was 20th century, a progressive era in food, drug and cosmetic regulations, where we have discussed that how the different issues came up in USA due to food, drug and cosmetics, how US government took various initiatives to minimize the repetition of these issues. And then came year 1938 and Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, when it has become mandatory that a drug has to be proved safe before it is launched to the market. And by the year 1962, in addition to safety, it has also become mandatory to prove the efficacy also, the effectiveness also of the drug before they are launched into the market. Now, because the drug manufacturer had to prove drug safety as well as efficacy, it has become very time consuming as well as a very costly affair for the pharmaceutical manufacturers to launch the product in the market. Thereby, after 1962, very few drug products came to the market. So US government or US Congress always expressed their interest for the affordable medicine to the public and also innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. By the year 1968, they started to invite drug product manufacturers to make the copy of the drug which were already there in the market and approved between 1938 to 1962. However, there were very few generic players in the market because it was not easy to file so-called paper NDA because generic manufacturers still had to prove safety and efficacy. Some of the manufacturers relied on safety and efficacy data available in the published literature, but such studies were also not easily accessible to all the manufacturers. Because of this, till early 80s, there were very few generic manufacturers available in the US market. Soon, FDA realized the two major constraining factors. First was patent regimes were blocking the generic entry into the market. Secondly, Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act was not having any specific provisions for the generic drug products or generic drug product manufacturers. Regulatory pathways were not clear and they were also time consuming. Then came the historical Roche and Bohler case. Roche owned flurazepam and Bohler started to work on its development activities of flurazepam, hoping that it will launch the product post-patent expiry. But the problem was when Bohler started to work on its development activities, Roche patent was still in force, so it was legally infringing. Because of this, Roche took Bohler to the court and won the case. This also triggered historical Hatch Waxman Act in 1984. Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act, informally it is also known as Hatch Waxman Act because represented and sponsored by Henry Waxman and Orion Hatch. The act was enacted by the Congress on 24 September 1984 to streamline the process of generic pharmaceuticals approval and also to preserve incentives for innovation and also creating a procedure for patent litigations involving the generic pharmaceuticals. Let's try to understand how this Hatch Waxman Act facilitated the generic manufacturers as well as innovator product manufacturer. So first, let's talk about the generic manufacturers. So earlier what was happening is the generic manufacturer used to take approximately 3 to 5 years to come to the market to launch their product after the patent expiry, because they cannot utilize the product which is still having a patent on it, even for the research and development purpose. However, this Hatch-Waxman Act provided exemption for the research and development purpose, so that now generic manufacturers can utilize an innovator product to commence their research and development activities even when the patent is still in force. So now it facilitates early entry of generic players into the market. Secondly, it also streamlined the process of ANDA submissions. Now, ANDA holders can refer the safety and efficacy data of innovator product and can prove that their product is equivalent to innovator by doing the bioequivalence studies. It also continued the so-called paper NDA practices, which are now also known as 505 B2 applications, which can be submitted in the following situation. 1. The generic product is duplicate to RLD, and secondly, the generic product is having a different strength, different doses form, different route of administration, or having at least one different ingredient in a combination product. So before we understand the requirements for ANDA submission, let's briefly understand the Orange Book. Orange Book is a publication of US FDA which has approved products, their therapeutic equivalents, patents and exclusivities. Now, while submitting an ANDA application, an ANDA holder has two options. The option 1 is providing one of the following certification in the dossier. Para 1 certification which state that no patent is listed in the Orange Book. Para 2 certification says that patent is already expired. Para 3 certification indicate that the patent will expire on a specific date and the product will be launched, the generic product will be launched only after expiry of the patent. And Para 4 certification which indicate that either the patent is invalid, unenforceable or generic manufacturer is not infringing the listed patent. Second option is Section 8 statement. The ANDA applicant can still file an ANDA without addressing the 4 patent certification we have discussed just now. The ANDA applicant can submit a Section 8 statement if the patent listed is only for the condition of drug use or indications. In the Section 8 statement, ANDA applicant can acknowledge the listed patent and state that he will not be using the listed patent in his label or as his indication. So, when he is submitting an application, he has to omit or carve out the listed indications in the patent. By this, he is making a skinny label for his formulation. Scaling means he is omitting the indications which are patented. FDA can grant the approval for such ANDAs if FDA feels that removing the certain indications or certain conditions of use will not make the drug less effective and less safe. Now let's try to understand how this act facilitated the innovator pharmaceutical company, as they are the one who are spending a lot of time and a lot of money in inventing and discovering the new chemical entities. So the first thing is that patent term extension. A patent is usually granted for a period of 20 years. an NDA holder can request the patent term extension to make up for the lost time during the clinical studies. But this patent term extension will not happen automatically. The NDA holder must notify USPTO within 60 days of approval of a new chemical entity. Besides this, the NDA holder is also eligible for regulatory exclusivities, which is usually for a period of 5 years and 3 years in case the advanced version of the same product come up, which require additional clinical studies. During this time, FDA will not accept and grant the ANDA approvals. However, this 5-year exclusivity can be reduced to 4 years in case of Para 4 filings, which are also known as NC-1 filings. It also facilitates the NDA holder by granting a 30-month stay. Now, what is this 30-month stay? Whenever a generic manufacturer is filing an application in Para 4, so he must intimate the NDA holder. And if NDA holder claim that his patent is infringing and take the generic manufacturer to the court, it automatically put a stay of 30 months for the approval of generic product, unless until either the patent is expired or judged as invalid. Now let's try to understand what has changed after 1984 or after Hatch Waxman Act. Before 1984, approximately only 19% of prescription used to have generic products. Now it is approximately 90% of prescription has generic prescriptions in them. Earlier, the brand product only have approximately 35% of generic competition, which is now is approximately 80%. Earlier, it used to take 3 to 5 years for a generic manufacturer to enter the market post patent expiry. Nowadays, most of the generic product are immediately available on the shelves of US pharmacies post patent expiry. So why I dedicated 2 videos to revisit the past or recollect the past events? Because I feel that when we know the past, we remain rooted. We also understand the significance and importance of our role as a pharmacy professionals. Today, when we go to the market, we have various substitutes available for the same medicine. We understand the effect as well as side effect. Condition was not the same always. Few generations back, the situations were totally different. When we get to know all the past events, we remain rooted, and when we are rooted, we appreciate the present more. With this thought, I leave you here. Take care, stay safe.